And now time for The Viewing Room with Adam and Ethan.
Welcome to The Viewing Room. Today we're talking about Batman 1989. It was released on June 23rd, 1989, with a budget of 48 million USD, which is actually crazy because its original budget was $35 million. And they kind of just kept having a little bit of things go and need more advertising, VFX, the whole 9 yards. And so eventually the budget came out to $48 million, which wasn't too bad because it did gross 411 million USD at the global box office. So pretty good, hey?
I'd say that's pretty good. If I had $411 million, I wouldn't be too sad.
Yeah, definitely. June 23rd, 1989. Fun fact about this day, the oil tanker called the World Prodigy hit a reef and spilled 297,000 US gallons of oil across Newport, Rhode Island.
I thought we were watching Batman, not Titanic.
Well, I'm just telling you, that was like a really historical thing that happened that day.
That's very, very interesting.
Any Canadian fans watching? All Canadian fans watching. 1.12 million liters of oil. Over 1 million liters. That's like a lot of jugs of milk.
Yeah. That's a lot of milk, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was all in Rhode Island, just on the ground. But apparently cleanup went really well. So there you go. That's a fun fact. Do you like it when I do that?
I do. I think it provides
I enjoy it. I think it's funny.
I think it's fun, yeah.
Anyways, it was directed by Tim Burton, who had just come off of finishing Beetlejuice.
Which we're seeing the new Beetlejuice in theaters, or it already came out, didn't it?
It's in theaters,
yeah.
For 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we should go see that.
We should go see that. It's starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Yep,
because
classic.
Come on. And Kim Basinger. Sorry. But, Michael Keaton. And Jack Nicholson. Those are the ones who really started. I can read a synopsis. I don't know if you have anything you want to add first.
I think we got to talk about our theater experience first.
Well, do you want to... Do you want me
obviously,
to say? You want me to...
ColiseumPresents.ca. Check out more of their live events. We're at almost all of those. And then we do a review afterwards. They're fantastic. See the movies like this on the big screen. But yeah, Roxy had a little mishap with their popcorn machine just before we got there. And it was a little bit hazy in the lobby there.
Yeah, well, we pulled up and there was just the smell, right? And you can just taste it in your mouth. Yeah. Like the burnt popcorn smell, and then we realized
grease, big burning grease can.
Yeah, like there was fans going off and stuff, and doors were open, all these people outside. And we're like, that's strange. And so their popcorn machine had caught on fire.
Yeah, I used a fire extinguisher. And
things were crazy, but luckily no one was hurt and the theater didn't burn down.
Yeah, it was
built in the 1930, right? Is that when it was?
That's what it was. There was a little plaque that we were reading there.
It's just like, come on, that would have been such a devastating loss to the community, I think. And I'm just so happy that things were fine and everyone was safe. And it was a little hazy in there, so we waited outside.
Just in the lobby. In the theater, it was fine. Like once you got through into the theater, it was fine. But
and I used that as a platform to kind of have a little comedy show because whatever. So I was telling people hey, this is actually what it was like going to the theater in the 80s. Cue laugh track. And this really, when the Roxy was built, realistically, that's what the theater looked like inside of it. It was just people go, and that was how, I've heard stories even, people my parents' age, when we were, kids back in the day, we would sit in the back of the Roxy or the Broadway and smoke cigarettes while the theater.
Or even, going to a restaurant and, the non-smoking section that was right beside the smoking section and did nothing.
Roll down the car window a quarter of an inch and then light went up, right? Even airplanes and stuff like that, right? Such a crazy thing. But anyways, people thought
the little planes that I fly, the Cessna 150 that I fly, it's a 1977 or 79. It's late 70s. It has little ashtrays in the door, literally.
Puffing a cigar after you have an epic takeoff is just so cool. You know what I mean? No, but truthfully, it's interesting to think about. And luckily everything was good there and I'm happy.
Obviously it would have, like you said, it would have been a big loss if that had happened. And I think it points out crap does happen, and it's makes you appreciate what we have.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to the Roxy. Thank you guys for everything and always being so awesome. I'm happy the show still went on. And
Yeah, I
and
was a little bit worried we weren't going to get to see it, but
yeah, exactly. Well, I don't. Have you seen this movie prior to this? Because
I hadn't. No, I hadn't.
You hadn't seen this, hey?
No.
Your dad didn't sit you down and say, "Young man, you need to watch this with me."
No.
Wow.
Well, he might have. That doesn't mean I watched it. I haven't watched it.
Well, we'll talk about this in a bit too, but I used to be scared of like Jack Nicholson's Joker as a kid. When I watched this with my dad, I was like, "No," like like this smile, the cheekbones and stuff, like, yeah. But
Here's a question for you. Speaking of that,
Okay.
you know, like the really dark creases right here.
Sure.
Do you think that was like prosthetic?
2 hours of makeup.
What, or was it just like a highlight that they did?
I think it's highlighted. He said I was looking up. It said 2 hours in the makeup chair, because he would come to set at 10 in the morning. Everyone else would come super early, but Jack Nicholson wrote in his contract that he couldn't be up that early, and so he would be asleep for 2 hours in the makeup chair at 10 a.m. Which 2 hours isn't bad when you consider people like Jim Carrey's The Grinch and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like no, like it was
Yeah.
makeup. I don't think prosthetics, but I think it was just makeup.
Yeah.
It's some special effects, but anyways, I can hit up the
Let's do the plot.
synopsis.
Let's do the synopsis.
Actually, while I search that up, Keaton was paid $5 million for this film, and he was paid $10 million for the sequel, and that's budget of $48 million, which is great.
That's a lot of money for the budget, actually.
Now, Jack Nicholson's average pay at that time was about $10 million a film, and so he took a pay cut in return for a percentage. So Michael Keaton made $5 million for this film. Guess how much Jack Nicholson made?
Oh boy. Wait, how much percent? How many percent?
I don't know the exact percentage, but he took a percentage after a pay cut.
Hold on. Let me think. 20 million.
He made $60 million off this movie.
Jeez. That's over 10%.
So, like, I don't know if they paid him $5 million initially, same as Keaton,
That's still over 10%.
yeah, I mean, and he took like probably a 50% pay cut, right, initially.
Eh.
But yeah, he grossed $60 million off this movie, so that was a good thing, right? You think about that a lot in movies, and my dad and I were talking about this the other day. Like, think of the people from Napoleon Dynamite who got paid a shitty flat rate and didn't take any percentages, especially being newer to the industry in that kind of time. That movie blows up, has a cult following. No one expected it to do that, and they're left with nothing, right? Maybe like a couple $1,000, right? They don't get any residuals.
Yeah.
Again, something like this, more of an industry veteran at the time, Jack Nicholson, comes in and he's like, okay, I want a percentage of this. Boom, $60 million, right? It's the same thing like other people in Star Wars, right? How many people do you think that worked on Star Wars would have been like, take an actual percentage instead if they knew that's what they should have done at the time, right?
Right.
But it's, again, things that you never know. You never know you'll know, like buying into Bitcoin or stuff like that. I think everyone would have been like 10 years ago, if they knew what Bitcoin was going to do, they would have told their younger self to do it. But again, you don't know these things, so it's not worth spending your time wishing you had known them. I'll read a synopsis, I guess. But that's crazy, eh?
Yeah, it is.
That's pretty crazy. Okay. Batman 1989 film synopsis. Having witnessed his parents' brutal murder as a child, billionaire philanthropist, and it says millionaire here, but he's technically a billionaire.
Oh, he's a lot more than a millionaire, that's for sure.
Yeah, so he's definitely a billionaire in all the comics. Anyways, philanthropist Bruce Wayne, Michael Keaton, fights crime in Gotham City disguised as Batman, a costumed hero who strikes fear into the hearts of villains. But when a deformed madman who calls himself the Joker, Jack Nicholson, seizes control of Gotham's criminal underworld, Batman must face his most ruthless nemesis ever while protecting both his identity and his love interest, reporter Vicky Vale. So, yeah, I don't think this is like the most complicated Batman movie. In fact, I think it's pretty quick in resolving the plot. But I do think it was interesting, and I think we're going to talk about this. It's very corny. It's definitely early superhero, kind of getting to the groove, whatever. But it's charming, and it has this nice feel to it. And I don't know everything you thought, but I definitely was like, yeah, this is really cheesy. But I'm still enjoying it.
Cheesy, as much as certain things just don't make sense. Like there was at certain points, I'm like, I don't mind this. It feels a little more attainable in a way, because it's not like the Thanos gonna snap his fingers and eliminate half of the universe, big world, earth-shattering plots.
So when he flew the Batwing in between two buildings and grabbed a bunch of balloons filled with like poison gas and flew them off into space, that wasn't cheesy or corny to you. No, my balloons.
I'm just saying. So I'm not saying it wasn't corny. I'm just saying maybe not quite as much as you think. I'm just thinking like it just felt a little more attainable, and it wasn't universe shattering plot. It felt a little more simple in a way, or a little more contained, like Gotham City, like the comics, and it wasn't he's swinging all over and like I felt they gave context, like in a lot of movies, where it's like you have like you're doing your reaction shots, right? So it's like the Joker shows up and says something, and you cut to Batman's not response basically, and then cut back to Joker, and then cut back and he's gone, right? Whereas in this one it was like there was a little more context as to how he got out of there, and like it felt a little more like it, and some of like the fights were terrible. Like some of the fight choreography was just absolutely brutal. But it, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It just felt a little more grounded in reality.
Yeah, I was going to say grounded is the right word, because I do agree with you in that sense, right? Again, it's suspension of disbelief that there's this really rich dude and he has his own plane that he flies around and like the Batwing, the Batmobile, stuff like that, armored cars. But again, when we look at stuff coming out today, like the theory of the multiverse and stuff like that, and magic stones that control the galaxy, and an agency of time people that can just destroy entire universes because they feel like it, right? Again, it's more simple. It's more of like, it feels like the Spider-Man movies where it's kind of like the neighborhood dude,
Right. Yeah,
and this is like big Batman City, whatever. But again, it's a little more grounded. There's still a bunch of suspension of disbelief, but he's not in space fighting aliens for the time stone.
Right.
He's Batman, right? And he's doing a little bit of espionage.
And he's not like you say, he's not fighting a god from another planet. He's fighting, the Joker, who's a gang guy, businessman sort of that turned evil.
Right. And all the DC movies too will go back to that kind of god people from god planets, and that's whatever, natural order, right? And you get bigger, better plots. But I think I do think you're right about that. Yeah. And I wouldn't argue with you. But I do think I probably thought it was a little more cornier than you did. But I think also that's coming from a spot where, when I saw this movie as a kid, I was scared of the Joker. I enjoyed this, and when my dad sat me down and we watched it together and stuff. But yeah, I think watching it again in the theater, I was like, I'm not really that scared of the Joker.
No.
I'm more thinking he's kind of hilarious, and Jack Nicholson had a great portrayal, but I thought it was more goofy than anything, than scary. Like when I think of best Joker, Jack Nicholson is a great Joker, but I think of Heath Ledger, right? Heath Ledger still is just like the most insane dude, crazy like performance, just like you watch that movie, and I'm still to this day like unsettled watching it, right? This movie made me laugh now more in the future, and I think but I don't think it's like something to disparage.
But though. Is that the Joker though? Like I mean we can all agree that he's a psychopath. Sure. But like in the Heath Ledger ones, like I feel like he's less. It's the less of a comic vibe, which isn't a bad thing. Like like some of those newer superheroes, they are like they're grittier, they're less comic-y. But like this one just felt more comic-y to me. Like with kind of the silly jokes and some of the outfits and everything, which isn't a bad thing in my opinion. I think it's just a different take on the same characters, kind of.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about too. Because again, it's not the worst thing in the world. It works. It all happens to come down onto the time and place you're doing the rendition of whatever character, right? You're allowed to make certain changes to how that character is portrayed, right? And I guess me personally, I think Heath Ledger is the best Joker, but that doesn't mean that you can't think Jack Nicholson's the best Joker. And truthfully, in this
I think
they're both
movie, good, just in different ways.
You can't stick Heath Ledger Joker in this movie and make it work.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't stick Jack Nicholson Joker into those Batman movies like The Dark Knight and be like, whatever. Like it's not going to work. But in each of their respective movies, they work.
Yes.
Which one works better? In my opinion, I think Heath Ledger's Joker just personally worked better for me, and I enjoyed it. But for this movie, Jack Nicholson did a great job.
Yeah.
If we're talking grand scheme of things and comparing all of them and whatever, you know, Heath Ledger's my favorite, but Jack Nicholson in this specific film did a fantastic job, and that shouldn't be discredited by who you think is the greatest Joker in the world, because he did do a good job, and it was a solid performance.
Yeah.
I guess we should talk about that, because the other pick for Joker was going to be Robin Williams. Crazy, right? Robin Williams really wanted to do it. He really wanted to play the role, but Tim Burton and like I was gonna say Universal. It wasn't 20th
It was
Century.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. Boof, right out of my mind. Anyways, Warner Brothers really wanted Jack Nicholson, but Jack Nicholson wasn't sure, right? And they had Robin Williams, who really, really, really wanted to do it, right? And I was reading up about this today. So they lied to Robin Williams and told him that he could like have the part, right? So Robin Williams was psyched to do it, right? Then they went to Jack Nicholson and said, hey, Robin Williams is down to play this role, and he's going to do it if you don't say yes. And so Jack Nicholson goes, yeah, whatever, I'll do it, right? And they go to Robin Williams and say, by the way, you didn't get the part. And he's like, what? But you told me I got the part. Anyways, Robin Williams refused to work on any other Warner Brothers projects until the studio officially apologized to him. And they eventually did. I don't know what year that was, but yeah, like for years he wouldn't work on any of their projects or any with the people there.
I cannot imagine Robin Williams as Joker. Like, and Robin Williams was a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he would have done a good job, but I just can't envision that. Like, I just can't, that doesn't seem like the Robin Williams I know.
I think,
but I know him from, like Good Will Hunting and Jumanji and all of his classic ones.
There's always going to be a long list of people who, when you look at it, especially like looking at the Joker, people think that they're not going to do a good job. I think Mark Hamill is a perfect example. Mark Hamill is credited as one of the best Jokers of all time, doing the animated voice of Joker. And no one would have thought that he did a good job. And people actually were like shocked when they heard that he was going to play it. And some people don't even know that Mark Hamill played Joker. You didn't know this, right? And so if you look up online who people think are the best Joker, like on Reddit or stuff like that, it's overwhelming how many people think Mark Hamill's Joker is the best Joker. And I think it's so surprising. But there's always going to be rules like that where people think that person can't do it, and then they surprise everyone.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not saying, like I said, he's a fantastic actor. I'm sure he would have done it. But I just can't see that in the Robin Williams that I know.
No,
but that shows his diversity as an actor.
Truthfully, Jack Nicholson did a great job, and we shouldn't spend too much time worrying about this and that and what could have been. And truthfully, I'm just talking about that was something that Warner Bros. Did to get Jack Nicholson to do it. And unfortunately, it didn't work out very well with them and their relationship with Robin Williams. But it looked like that was resolved. I guess we should go through a little bit of a synopsis, before we keep on going.
Probably.
Okay, so we kind of learn, obviously Gotham City is very, very crime-ridden, and Batman is out and about kind of trying to clean up the streets. So we have, not Harvey, who's the one reporter dude? What's the...
it's something Knox, and Andrew, no.
So there's one reporter dude and Vicky Vale. He's not like super important.
Yeah, he's kind of an odd character.
Let's talk about Vicky Vale.
Yeah, okay, sure.
She's just yelling.
I'm good with talking.
Well, I don't want to go too far into it. Anyways, Vicky Vale's on the hunt looking for the Batman. Wrong movie.
Yeah.
So she's kind of looking around and trying to figure out where this guy is, who he is, and the police don't know anything about it. Because there's just this mass vigilante running around Gotham City, cleaning up the streets. I guess it's that kind of trope too, where they're like, he's not a good do-gooder, right? He's like a bad dude, but there's no proof of him doing anything bad. They're just trying to prove that he's a bad guy. But it's like, wait, why is he putting away all these criminals so that he can have all the crime to himself? Like,
right, yeah.
Anyways, so Batman's doing some missions and stuff like that, but we learn that there's like a little bit of a crime syndicate in Gotham. And one of those dudes happens to be the Joker.
Before he's the Joker.
Before he's the Joker. Anyways, there's a little bit of tension kind of forming in the houses, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Kind of like different families, almost
Yeah,
like the
mob
mafia.
families,
Yeah,
yeah.
mob families, and I guess that is what they are. Hey,
I mean, they never specifically say it, but it seems like that
They're
kind
mob,
of, you know,
right?
they're mob.
they're mob. Yeah, they're mob. I love that. You know, this sounds so unprofessional. I do think this one's a little harder to follow, though.
Oh, for sure. Like that kind of that like I feel like there's less distinction between the characters in a way. Like, you know, it's a bunch of, you know, old white guys in suits. There's less distinction. They all seem like kind of scumbags. There's less distinction between the characters, and it is kind of harder to follow on the first watch, you know?
Yeah, well, this wasn't the first watch, but it has been.
Well, for me, it was the first
long
watch.
time for me. But like, yeah. Anyways, so they go through, and I'm not going to go too far into everything because I know we're kind of on time constraints and yada yada yada. And frankly, I think we take too long with our synopsis. But basically, we have contention, and so Jack Nicholson's character, and I forget his main character. Was it Nathan? I forget. Before he becomes the Joker.
It wasn't his name Jack?
It's Jack. Yeah, it goes Jack. Yeah.
Jack.
So Jack that's perfect actually.
Yeah.
Jack is sleeping with the boss's mistress, I guess wife or whoever.
I'm not sure how that works.
And the head of the crime family doesn't really like this very much. And so he tasks Jack on a very special mission to go raid this chemical plant and kind of do some espionage and find some dirt on them and destroy the place. The power company, I guess. And it's actually a setup. The crime family has been working with the police to actually trick this and get Jack and executed essentially. Yeah. But the police captain comes and he's like, no, can't do this. Commissioner Gordon is like, we're not going to kill them. We're going to take him in alive. And so that kind of backfires on the crime family, right? But Batman shows up to kind of defeat the goons and kind of save the day. And he tosses Jack into a bit of chemicals. And we presume he's dead.
Yep.
And Batman goes on his merry way. I should also say that we have...
His brooding way. It's not merry.
We also have Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams. And I never noticed that as a kid. I didn't remember that. I just don't think I remembered really who Billy D. Williams was. But I don't know a lot of like movies that Billy D. Williams has been in aside from like Star Wars. And I think he killed it as Lando Calrissian. I think he's one of my favorite characters. And I feel bad about it because I just feel like I haven't watched a lot of his movies. And maybe he peaked in Star Wars, or maybe I sound completely wrong, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what
I didn't remember that he was playing Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to have a way bigger role in the future, but he didn't. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
They kind of promised him that he would have more of a spotlight in the next few movies as playing Two-Face.
That was one thing, is he didn't have a lot of screen time in this one.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of... I think this movie feels a little misguided in my opinion, because in the original draft, Robin was in it. They cut Robin out of it because it felt like there was too much. They wanted to do more Two-Face, they couldn't. And so I feel like for a lot of it, Harvey Dent's character just doesn't even matter. And I feel bad saying that because I love Billy D. Williams.
Well, he doesn't.
They just didn't utilize him.
I mean, like even in the
sense.
scenes where he's in, most of the time he doesn't have a line.
He's a backseat character too, compared to like Commissioner Gordon or some of the other guys.
And even Commissioner Gordon didn't have a big role in this compared to like something like the comics. Like there was absolutely no communication between Gordon and Batman like there is in the comics.
Sure, aside from the bat signal at the end.
But that's the end, right?
And the other thing is too, a lot of the scenes that have Billy D. Williams in them, the camera's almost focused on him, but he's the only one not talking.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty strange?
Maybe like this is all setting up for the sequel, right? Like this is like a prequel telling the story of Batman, setting up the bat signal, and then, they're focusing on those things to let us know for the next movie that, oh, there's something up with this Harvey Dent character, and then blah, 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 like who knows? Maybe it was their vision was, kind of like a Marvel, 11 movies and whatnot, and didn't work out,
And I think that's again one of the situations where I think The Dark Knight did it better, setting up the first movie with Scarecrow and other stuff like that, and some of those essential characters, and then moving into the Joker and stuff, and really establishing like you have your character of Batman, you have your character Joker. Now let's see how Batman kind of changes through that, and then wrap it up with the third movie with like Bane and stuff like that, right? Anyways, we can keep going on the synopsis. Joker. Now officially
Joker
wakes up from facial reconstructive surgery because he was still alive, and he's a mess now. He kind of is driven instantly insane by how he looks. A mixture of chemicals and just like, how do you do the smile? You do the smile? I can't do the smile. Anyways, he's driven insane, and he's like gonna wreak havoc on Gotham and the Batman and show the people how evil he can be, a menace to society, if you will. You want to keep going?
Yeah, and then he hatches all of his plots with the various products throughout the city to try and terrorize the citizens. And there's a number of people
laces the food products.
But as we find out later, it's specific combinations of things.
Sure.
So then there's a couple different they do it really creative with the newscast, and then I don't remember what happens.
Yeah, well,
it's kind of hard to follow in there.
He does kill the crime family. I feel like
That's
it
right,
wraps up. The main story wraps up pretty quickly. Like, we can go through side
Yeah.
plots, but yeah, he kills the dude of the crime family and takes his girl and
Basically.
and threatens a bunch of the head mob dudes, and they're all very threatened and scared of him now. And he starts unleashing his reign of terror, if you will, over Gotham City, and Batman tries to destroy some of his plots, but Bruce Wayne, on the other hand, too, is kind of falling in love with this Vicky Vale chick, she's trying to figure out who Batman is, and obviously Michael Keaton is with her, but he's slowly falling in love, and
Alfred is very encouraging in that regard.
Yeah, he wants Bruce to have someone to hold, and essentially they start going out and doing stuff together, and Vicky Vale is not really close to figuring out who Batman is. But anyways, jumping forward a bit, Joker is doing another little heist here and going to destroy some art at the art museum, right? And do whatever. So he tricks Vicky Vale because he knows that Vicky Vale is very infatuated with Batman and trying to figure out who Batman is to be at this place. And he wants to guess hire maybe Vicky as a little goon to help find who Batman is so the Joker can destroy him. That doesn't work out because the Batman comes in and saves Vicky.
Yeah.
And kind of lets her go and stuff. And Vicky kind of wakes up at her place in the morning. But I guess before that, Michael Keaton's kind of been, or Bruce Wayne's been hiding things from her. She can kind of figure that out. And has been kind of lying because he's so focused on stopping the Joker. Because again, the Joker's been kind of poisoning and killing people in the
terrorizing Gotham
in the city. And I should add a fact here because I thought this was funny. Guess how many deaths there were in this movie? Typically, there's no deaths in a Batman movie, or very few.
17.
83.
I was way off.
So there's 56 on-screen deaths and 27 off-screen deaths. So I think off-screen deaths would probably be things like when they blow up the factory.
Oh, yeah.
Like where he's making all these, hygiene products and stuff. 17 of these 83 kills are from Batman. So Batman kills 17 people in this movie. In most Batman movies, Batman has a no-kill kind of
which I think is wrong.
belief system. Kind of like Daredevil.
I think that's wrong. I think Batman
I will fight you on that.
I think Batman from the comics is a little darker.
I think he is too.
And I think that's what makes Batman interesting is that it's a little bit of a question almost. Is it moral to kill these evil people?
Well, I don't know.
I think that's fine. Honestly, within the character, I think that's good.
I think it's dark, right? But the reason I think the no killing thing works is because it's kind of an example. And I was reading up about this too, why the comic book makers and stuff are like this, and pardon me, a bunch of the film people and writers are like, don't like having it's like Daredevil, right? The no kill rule, because it gives like a little bit of like, it makes the character stoic and kind of like.
But that's not Batman to me.
I think Batman, his main kind of superpower is fear, almost, right?
No, his main superpower is money. He's goddamn rich.
It's he scares criminals and stuff and whatever, but he pulls back a little bit by not killing them. And the reason for this, it makes it better, is because well, they want to have it, and this is an actual character thing, and the no killing thing, is because killing more people would only inspire more murder because people are dying. Showing mercy kind of promotes a I guess maybe a feeling of security, right? By not killing the people and the crime, whatever, so that they can go tell their friends like, oh my God, Batman's scary, don't do crime anymore, right? It's way more effective than Batman just killing them on the spot. You know what I mean? Because
That
then
might
they're not
be, but
scared of
that
life.
to me isn't Batman.
And
To
also,
me, Batman is just that darker, like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Batman like this. I was just the thought like Batman's scary, right? Like if you got beaten to like near death by a guy in a bat costume and he was like, "Don't do crime, kid," I would be like, "Okay, yeah, like yes, sir. Like no crime for me. That's it. I am gonna go work at Sobeys now." and yeah, like I don't know. I don't think he needs to kill people to be effective because he's already scary enough. I think a lot of people like kill to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies, like Joker in this film. But I think Batman is already almost like a statue in a way, like the way he moves and stuff. And
Yeah, that's another
he's
problem
dark
I have
enough,
with
and he
this
has
movie.
the big wings and stuff like that. It makes sense that he wouldn't kill people because he already has that level of fear. Like he always inspires so much fear in anyone he interacts with.
I'm still going to maintain that to me that's not Batman's character. But that's you.
And
to each their own.
That's fair enough.
But this is an interesting point. You mentioned it there briefly. Like he's very like statue in this movie.
Yeah.
And it annoyed me in several spots where it felt like he's just standing there. Well, not just the way he turns, but like just the way he's just like standing there. And like Joker's about to throw her off like the side of a building and he's just standing there watching them. And it's like do something or at least be moving. Like there was just certain times where he just felt like he was just too still and just watching for no reason.
Yeah, and I actually looked that up, and apparently it's because the suit for Michael Keaton was so restricting that he couldn't really move that much, so they kind of just rolled with it. And that's kind of why he's more of a statue or very like rigid, is because his suit was so restricting and like so
That's
tight
a problem then.
that he couldn't really do a lot of those movements. So that's why it became more of like, it almost had an animated feel to it. Like, you know how the animated Batman kind of just like stands there and like does like the funny little turn?
Yeah,
Does the funny turn. His Batman is like that because of how restricted he was.
But to me, that's a problem, and they needed to change the suit then, because it's a live action, and it just felt weird at times, and like I guess that makes sense then in the fight choreography. There's that one in particular where they're in the tower right near the end, and he's fighting the one henchman, and it's like they did like the like this karate thing, and it was just so bad. Like it was just like, oh, put some effort in, like oh.
Yeah. Well, and coming up with that too. You know how I said earlier, like the I'm Batman, like the voice.
I'm Batman. No, I'm Batman.
You know the voice though. You
Yeah.
attribute Batman to have a dark voice. Well, prior to all the Batman movies and media before this,
It was the
kind of
classic
starting in the
1940s. I am Batman.
yeah, there was never like a distinct dark voice with Batman.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton did it himself as his own thing, and it started the trend. Now every Batman since has been more dark and brooding and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see that with the Adam West Batman, of course, but it was before. Okay? Like, I'm
Before
just
Michael
saying.
Keaton,
Again, Michael Keaton created that, and now it's like a staple in every Batman that is like the dark, brooding, like I'm darkness, I'm vengeance, and that's what people, when you hear that voice, you're like, okay, that's Batman.
That's
maybe
Batman,
not maybe not for me, but when someone like George Clooney or Robert Pattinson or whatever, someone can do it, it makes it work. And yeah, I don't know. That's something that Michael Keaton came up with
That's
on his own
interesting. Very
accord.
interesting.
Tim Burton liked it. They kept it in, made it work,
Yeah.
and that's something that's grown.
Yeah.
And that wasn't in the script or anything like that in the character. So
Yeah.
there you go. Where were we at in our? Oh yes, art museum stuff. Anyways, I was gonna say Lois Lane. That's so funny. Vicky Vale wakes up, and she's all like, okay, well, what the heck? And Bruce Wayne kind of shows up because he's decided at this point, after saving her from the museum, that okay, he better come.
Better
clean.
tell her. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he goes along, and he's about to tell her, but there's a knock at the door. He's trying very hard. He's very awkward. He's trying to tell her that he's Batman,
Yes.
and that he has a secret, and that's why things have been so rough. But anyways, Joker comes into the room, and it's like, oh,
This ain't good.
This isn't good at all. So he runs to the other room, like her bedroom, and grabs like her makeup tray and stuffs in his suit in case Joker tries to shoot at him, right?
Yeah.
And Joker does shoot at him, I guess.
Yeah, there's a whole exchange. He shoots at him.
Yeah, well, ever dance with the devil in the play on Moonlight, right? Basically, he finds out that Joker is the goon, essentially, who killed his parents.
And that's where
many years ago.
I found that very interesting. The very opening scene where it's like two people out in the back of the alley, and you think that's Batman's origin story. Like, oh, that's Batman's, where they're going to show his origin, right? But no, it's not.
It's the start of the movie.
It's the start of the movie. But then we do find out later his origin story. But that's just one thing I wanted to point out, is that I thought that was a very clever opening.
I thought that was interesting too. And the twist of Joker being
the one who murdered.
Being the murderer. I thought that was interesting at first. And I was like, looking at it, I was like, okay, like it's whatever. I don't believe that. Anyways, I'm looking online today. Apparently it's one of the highest ranked worst movie twists of all time. People don't like that. People hate that. Like genuinely. I was reading like 5-star reviews even, and they said the only thing they don't like about this movie is that this didn't work.
I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it really adds a whole lot.
No, I think
like it adds personal motivation to him wanting to stop Joker, but his character
is a cop-out in a way.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like, he already would have been doing that, so.
Right, and it's like, I don't know. Like, I think maybe it is interesting that, like, the Joker was the one who killed Batman's parents, but I think at the end of the day, like, there was no additional story construction around that. It was very flat if that's what they were trying to do, like have this huge arc of, oh my god, this is the dude who killed my parents. Like, I gotta stop him now and put an end to this. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think they really worked with that enough to make it worth doing. And it just kind of felt like felt more like they were just throwing it on the table, and that's like, oh, okay, interesting. Now let's go watch the final fight scene.
It's hard to do an emotional arc with Batman because he is so dark and brooding and
he's
flat.
He's a little more reserved, claustrophobic in himself.
Man.
Anyways, he's dead but not dead. He kind of just disappears.
That's one of the times where they use that. He just disappears.
Yeah, like the cutaway, they cut back and they're gone, right? So he's disappeared and left, and now he's kind of plotting how is he going to find the Joker, how is he going to stop him,
right?
And Alfred decides to bring Vicky Vale into the family home, into the Batcave, and show her off to Bruce and be like, yeah, this is Batman right here.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce doesn't really know what to think about this.
He
can't really believe that Alfred would almost betray his trust in a way like this, but he did, and that's how that worked. And so now she knows, and why basically they won't talk. Is it explained I can't remember in the second movie, because he's not with her anymore.
I haven't seen it.
Is it explained? I've seen the second movie like probably only twice in my life, but I know he's with Selena Kyle, or like they started dating. So do you remember why Vicky Vale and him like broke up, or it didn't work out?
I do not remember how storyline of that, and
Sure.
I'm guessing maybe Kim Basinger movie that could have been it too. That's what.
Sure. I mean, with a movie that grossed $400 million, you think Kim Basinger would have come back and like wanted to join?
Yeah, I am not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we're not sure about that, because that's one thing I was thinking about too in the theater. I was like, okay, I've seen both of these movies before, like the sequel and stuff, but I can't remember why all of a sudden Vicky Vale isn't in it, and he's after Selena Kyle, who becomes Catwoman after she's almost murdered. But yeah, that's whatever.
I haven't seen the second one, so
that's whatever.
Yeah.
We can look at that at a different date. We can go over
watch the second
some
one.
theories. Anyways, they now need to stop Joker from doing his final act of terror, which is essentially his
poisonous balloons.
His little Weapon X gas stuff that makes people laugh themselves to death, kind of like Kitty Town, is essentially going to be put in big helium balloons. He's going to have a parade where he throws out over $20 million of cash.
Yep.
And so he'll have a bunch of people flooding in for the cash, and then he'll release this toxin, and a bunch of people are going to die. Right? And so that's exactly what he does. He has this little parade and stuff. And
In the early draft,
At the start of the second movie, Vicky Vale was in it.
She was in the early draft
Sure.
of the script.
Of the script.
She was featured in Sam Hamm's early draft of the film
Okay.
when it was intended to be a direct sequel of the previous one. But due to the fact that Tim Burton doesn't like making sequels, it was decided to exclude her.
But
That's a Cole's note.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Tim Burton just didn't like making sequels. For
So-
$400 million, you better like making sequels. That's interesting to me.
The final script made reference to Vale breaking up with Wayne because she ultimately could not accept his dual life.
Oh, she broke up with him because she couldn't accept.
So they did come up with him.
They came with that. I think that seems pretty weak, though, if you ask me. It's definitely.
You're
it's
with a
weak reason.
gajillionaire who's also a superhero. I feel like that's pretty hard to. But hey, you know what?
Yeah, that's something you should show. If it's a sequel.
Yeah.
You can't.
But it's not a sequel because he doesn't like doing sequels.
Again, you can't, as a director, be like, oh, no, I don't like making sequels. So I'm going to make a movie that's all the same characters,
Following the timeline.
taking place after the first movie. But no, it's not a sequel. Okay, I don't like sequels, guys, okay? I'm not a sequel guy, okay? And we're just going to take out the love interest and we're going to make it new. And we're going to reference that old love interest still because but it's not a sequel, but we're going to reference it because that makes sense. Can I have $500 million for making this movie, please? It doesn't read that well.
Yeah.
But
They did it, so
they did it. They made it happen. They, dare I say, made the sequel. I don't know if I'm going to get shot in the head while I'm driving back.
Yeah,
with a
right.
Sniper, but
Nope, you're
they
gonna
made it
get
happen.
Batman's gonna come get you.
I know. I'm going to like wake up to Batman standing over.
Yeah,
me like,
yeah.
How dare you?
It'll be me in a Batman costume.
That's less scary. No, somehow more scary. Actually, I think. Nope.
I know
We're
where you
moving on.
live.
That's terrifying. So, anyways, Batman comes in to save the day because all these people are kind of fallen for the Joker's trick of money, and they're kind of getting killed by this gas, essentially.
Yep.
And so Batman comes in super realistically with his bat wing and his flying jet, and he snaps all these wires to the balloons, and he takes them up into the upper atmosphere, which, in my opinion, scientifically, not a science guy, maybe got to get Neil deGrasse Tyson in here. Pardon me. Doesn't make sense. Okay? If you have dangerous gas that's killing people, right? Being
Yeah, taking up
dispensed
higher in
thing.
the atmosphere.
Let's get my jet, okay? And let's shoot these things up and like just pop them over the upper atmosphere. What good do you think that's going to do?
He's gonna spread it over a larger area.
Yeah. That's like nuclear fallout.
Mm-hmm. We should try and get Neil deGrasse Tyson on.
Yeah.
I will say it's interesting how he does like fact check like movies and stuff like that. When it's like, Titanic had the wrong
The night
sky.
sky,
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
wrong side. But then
Yeah.
like some other movie director called him. He's like, so what sky would somebody see if they were in this place looking this direction at this time of year and like, at this time of night, blah, blah, blah. Like, so but I just find that interesting how he does things like that. And like he calculated.
James Cameron redid
Yes.
Titanic in the remastered version and changed the sky to
And
what
he
Neil deGrasse
yeah.
Tyson said.
And then I saw one where he calculated the weight of Thor's hammer.
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
he's like, well, a star weighs this much, so we're going to put that all in this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think that's very neat of him to do and take those theoretical situations and make them realistic.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see if we can reach out to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, he's on my call list.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I didn't want
Along
to
with
call
Tim
him.
Burton and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Still waiting for that email, Tim.
Yeah. And I will say the other thing that I was going to point out there is I did not like the special effects of the Batwing. They were really poorly done.
Come on, the Batwing I think was fantastic. I didn't
outside
like
shots,
I didn't
yeah.
like the gas coming out of
The outside
the
shots,
canisters.
sure. The inside shots were terrible.
I disagree.
They
I
felt,
think that was awesome.
No. The physics was all off, and it just was very like rigid and like not. It was not good. It was just not good.
Oh, guys,
the physics in the
'80s Batman movie was off.
Physics is physics.
I just complained about the magic balloons being put up in the upper atmosphere, so
I get to complain
I'm
about
one
the
talk.
physics being
yeah,
weird.
You're allowed to. You're a pilot. You're allowed to say those things. Whatever. Anyways, Joker shoots him down with a really long pistol.
I love that pistol. That is fucking hilarious.
He pulls out a pistol that has like a barrel this long.
It's like a cane, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And he just boops the Batwing out of the air
Yeah.
and crash lands. And basically, he takes Vicky Vale up to the top of this cathedral to essentially lure Batman up there so he can jump him and get him. And so Batman goes up because it's his only option. This is supposed to be the climax of the film. Dare I say, it didn't feel very climatic.
It didn't really, no.
And that's actually probably because that ending was written during the film's creation. They didn't really have a big climax area. And apparently when Batman's going up the stairs, that's the climax of the film.
That didn't really feel very climactic to me.
I would think the main climax is when they're dangling off the rooftop and they might fall to their
That
deaths.
to me certainly felt like the
But
climax.
that's not what Tim Burton says.
Well, Tim Burton's wrong.
He's the film director, so I don't know what you want to make about that. But yeah, I feel like the end was very anticlimactic. We kind of have a bunch of this back and forth between Batman and Joker, and it's fun, it's antics, whatever. But again, it felt like it didn't hit as much as it did maybe when I was a kid. Because again, obviously this movie came out a long, long time before I was a kid. But like, I just think I liked it better when I watched it with my dad as a kid than I did in the theater. But that being said, Batman goes up. He kind of has a couple fight scenes with the guys, and he goes to take Joker out. And they kind of get Joker out to this rooftop. And all of a sudden, Joker kind of bests Batman. And he has to save Vicky from falling off the building. And in turn, now they're both kind of dangling off the side of this cathedral, right? And all the police have spotlights on them and stuff like that. And so now Joker's going to kill them and then take off in a helicopter because why not? And essentially, he gets really close. His goons come and fly a helicopter, and he goes to get on the ladder and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, Batman kind of shoots like a little grappling hook and attaches him to a gargoyle on the side of the cathedral. And Joker gets carried away, but he can't hold on to the ladder because there's a massive stone structure connected to him. And he falls to his death and dies, destroying the pavement underneath him too. It's like when the Hulk falls, like in the Avengers. And so Batman saves Vicky, and Gotham is saved for now. And because Batman kind of has a better image, but people still don't know who Michael Keaton's Batman is. That being said, too. Vicky, they don't really touch much on Vicky anymore, do they?
No.
They kind of just leaves it off as that. Like Joker's dead, the hero is saved, and then next movie comes in and we learn that again Vicky has broken up with Batman. So there's obviously a weird gap here, but because Tim Burton doesn't do sequels, come on, like whatever. That I never.
Yeah.
When I read that today, I was pretty shocked, but whatever. I mean, to each their own, right? Funny enough, Tim Burton, the guy who says he doesn't do sequels, just came out with Beetlejuice 2. Actually, did Tim Burton direct Beetlejuice 2? Beetlejuice? I gotta look that up.
I assume he did.
I think
I gotta
so.
look that up quickly.
I'm like 90% sure he did, yeah.
Money talk.
Yeah, well, Money Talks. Yeah. That's
Directed by Tim Burton.
by...
So
the guy that doesn't do sequels did a sequel.
It said in the article I read that he direct quote that doesn't do sequels or doesn't like to do sequels, and the reason why the other one was structured so weird is because he didn't want to do a sequel. And he does a lot of sequels for a guy who doesn't like doing sequels.
Yeah. Well,
Money
that's
does talk.
whatever.
No,
Whatever.
and truthfully, we talk about this all the time. Like, again, some films don't need a sequel, whatever.
No.
But there is, some people call it greed, but there is a certain attractiveness of when you make a film and it grosses 10 times the budget, you want to do another one.
Yeah.
And I guess people can call that greed. Some people can call it passion. But I think truthfully, when you have a platform to make another film and you know you're going to have a guaranteed budget and you're guaranteed to essentially make money, it eliminates a lot of the risk of even making a movie.
Yep.
And you can kind of focus on more of that direct passion, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so, again, maybe for some people it's greed. But in a lot of cases, if you knew you would have enough money to make a full-length feature and enough of a following that you know people are automatically, not automatically, but probably are going to like it, you can kind of channel a little bit of that creativity.
Sure.
And that's where I stand on that. Again, most films don't need a sequel, and I think it can kind of be frivolous. Like I was talking about Despicable Me 4, possibly a fifth one coming on the way. But again, it turns into a thing where if you know you're going to make money, you know.
Money talks.
Right?
That's
That's the way the world works. If you know that you're a big Hollywood producer and you know that if you decide, hey guys, I want to see our Batman movie this year, and you know by the end of the year you're gonna have another $15 million in your pocket and you can go buy another luxury car, well, chances are that producer's like, okay, calling up the guys. James Cameron, do you want to do the next Batman movie?
Yeah.
Right? You know, Steven Spielberg, you want to do this? You in? No, Jurassic Park? Okay, whatever, fine. You know, move on, right? Anyways,
Yeah.
that's where that is, frankly.
Okay, what else do we have to get to here?
Well, I want to talk about Gotham City because I thought it looked good.
I loved it in this
So-
one. I loved it.
I'm going to make a comparison to Mystery Men.
I was thinking the same thing.
Mystery Men had an okay futuristic thing. I think they didn't utilize it enough.
No, you're right.
I think it lacked a lot of whatever. You show this big futuristic city, and then all of a sudden, all the scenes are in the suburbs or random palaces and stuff.
And
Again,
it's no different than modern day. I agree.
doesn't work.
Yeah, we covered that.
In Batman, this worked.
I
'cause
do.
It actually
I
felt
agree.
like big
agree.
city, whatever, big whatever.
But not just the big city, but like I felt like they incorporated that supernatural element in things like
And
in
they
the chemical
did better.
plant and even in Batman's cars and his Batwing and everything. I felt like it had more of that supernatural element.
And I think too, what one of it is obviously there's a difference in budget and stuff and time. We're not going to go in all of the specific stuff. When you compare, like, let's say Mystery Men, what works is in Batman compared to Mystery Men is you shoot Gotham City at night, do whatever, and then you go into an alleyway and you can tell there's bigger buildings in the background. That works, right? Because you're keeping it real to the source. Maybe it's not the same area. Maybe you can tell the skyline is different, whatever. But the thing is, you're going from one place that you've established to the next place. In Mystery Men, you see the big, fancy, futuristic city, and then all of a sudden, maybe we're in a diner or stuff like that, and maybe that works because you can see buildings in the background. But then all of a sudden, we're in suburbs, right?
Yep.
And we're in mansions, and you don't see any cities anywhere, right? And so it feels like a completely secluded area. And you can say, oh, well, that's maybe like the difference between like what Central Park is in New York City, right? But again, you can't. There's definitely a distinction that you can make there, and I think that's
Right.
something that
Yeah.
worked
For
in
sure.
this movie.
I agree.
It cost over $5 million to make Gotham City in the backlot of Pinewood Studios in London. So they spent over $5 million, kind of like, painting and creating that landscape and stuff like that in the studio. So that's how they kind of created Gotham City. It's interesting because we're looking at $5 million, right? And we're like budget of $48 million. So we know over $5 million went to creating the look of Gotham. Over $5 million went to Michael Keaton. Over $5 million went to Jack Nicholson. So we already know there over $15 million, right?
Yeah.
So again, you can see how these things kind of dwindle fast. We're
Yep.
looking at marketing fees, probably spent $5 to $10 million on that. And so we're looking like, okay, actual fruit of budget, right? Looking at how much time do we have to shoot, special effects, catering, things like that, transportation. You can kind of see how we started with 48 million. Now for those things, we're kind of at probably 30 million.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we're going down the chain, right? So now we have $30 million. And so you
Yeah.
can kind of see how, like my point stands, when you have $50 million compared to $30,000, that's where some of the difference comes in, is how much
Yeah.
you're paying your cast, right?
Yep, for sure.
There's a huge difference to someone on a set making $5 million for a 1 month shoot compared to someone doing a 1 month shoot for $1,500. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's really the difference is pay.
Yeah.
A lot of the times,
Yeah.
right? Because you once you have a bigger crew and do the things, obviously you spend more on catering. But at the end of the day, food is still expensive, right?
It is.
If you're
right
buying
now,
if you're
especially.
buying Subway for a crew of 15, it's expensive. When you have 3 times the amount of money and you buy for a crew of 50, it's still expensive,
It's
right?
still percentage-wise
Yeah.
ratio, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so at the end of the day, when you make a movie with larger budget,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is wages and the amount of people you have working out of
Mm-hmm.
your crew. But truthfully, the more people you have working in your crew, technically, the shorter you can shoot that length of time, right? You can get more done in a
Theoretically,
day if you have more people in each department.
Yeah.
Because technically,
There's still a
Just
minimum
statistically-
length. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't.
oh,
At
for
a
sure,
certain point,
for
you can't
sure.
make it any shorter. But yeah,
if you want to keep quality up. And then again, when you look at higher studio budget movies, like I talk about Oppenheimer a lot, when they have over 100 days of shooting, they can kind of curate. They have enough money in like the chamber that each day they can work on one scene.
Yeah.
And curate it and fine tune it. And if they don't get that scene done in one day, it doesn't matter
They can do
because
the
they
next
have
day.
another 90 days and $200 million to work with,
Right.
right? Something like a lower budget movie, you know that in that day you need that shot done. And if you don't do it that day, it's triple time the next day, right?
Yeah.
Again, there's always going to be lots of pressure from producers and stuff like that to make it work. But there is definitely a noticeable gap in some movies where you can tell like they when you have over a month to shoot something, right? You can kind of go in there and finely tune it, and that's what makes it a whole new level of quality.
For sure. Yeah.
But that does come from having a lot and lots of higher budget, and it's not as run and gun because everything needs to be looked at closely because there's a lot of money on the line, right? And I think again, there's a whole new aspect of challenges and creative stuff that goes on in there. Let's talk about things you liked and disliked, though.
I mean, we've already talked about a lot of that as we went through the plot. I think I've mentioned most of them. I'm trying to think of what else there is that I liked and disliked. I mean, overall, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. You know, like it was. There's issues with it, but overall, I thought it was good. At certain points, I felt myself not being as like interested in the story.
Sure.
Like I just felt like this feels kind of long at times, and just not very interesting. Like, and so maybe like pacing was a bit of an issue there. I don't know. Could have just been that day. I don't know. You know.
No, then that's true. Like, the word I like to use, or what comes to mind when I talk about this one, is imaginative. I think this was an imaginative movie. I think it has charm. It has a little bit of wonder. I don't doubt that when people saw this movie in the theaters in the 80s, they had a great freaking time.
Like
right?
When we're looking at it through a modern lens. I think that's part of it. Also, is that, you know, like when I'm saying, oh, those special effects were terrible. Well, yeah, compared to modern special effects, but if you compare it to Doctor Strangelove, you know, from '64, you know. It's pretty good, you know. So
right, and I still think like the best benchmark in history is Star Wars for VFX. Like,
well, VFX on a budget, yeah.
I think that's crazy.
You watch those special effects now compared to stuff nowadays, and
but I think it was revolutionary for the time it came out.
100%. You're absolutely right.
And yes. I think this had aspects of revolutionary, but compared to like say Star Wars, and
I think
stuff
it was
like
more revolutionary in its behind the scenes in a way, like showing that you can make a big budget superhero movie like this and make it work.
And again, it's some people would use the word genre defining. I think that's up to whoever, you know, really the viewer. But it works, right? And I do think like maybe some stuff aren't as good as Star Wars VFX or stuff like that. But again, uniqueness in its own way, right? We're flying the Batman, the Batwing over the big city and stuff like that, and we're having different set pieces like the Batcave and stuff like that. And I think they showed it brilliantly, and I think it works, right? Yeah, sure. Like I said, I used the word corny. I do think it's a little cheesy
at times,
right?
It has its moments,
and you can tell. But I think ultimately it's the question of, does this hold up? And I was on the fence for a bit. Does it stand the test of time? Right? To you, does it? What do you think? Does it do that for you?
As a whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those specific aspects, no.
I think personally, to me, it holds up. But again, certain aspects don't. I agree with that. I think like acting and stuff, it holds up.
Oh, for sure. In those
aspects,
well. It's fantastic acting. And
do I think the special effects hold up as well as they should? Probably not. No. When I think of watching A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back, I'll use The Empire Strikes Back because I think that was crazy. I still watch that and I'm like, I think that holds up. I think that definitely holds up. I don't laugh at the Star Wars effects. Maybe the first lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in the Death Star, I laugh at that. But that's about the only
Honestly,
reason,
the lightsaber
right?
effects are some of the stuff they did better, in my opinion. Some of the ships and the explosions and stuff, while they were, as you say, revolutionary, some of them look a little bit corny. But as far as it goes,
I still watch those movies, and I'm like, wow, that was crazy for that time. Watching again in the theater, the like some of like the gas effects and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, that's a little cheesy.
It's a little bit cheesy, but it's not terrible for the time.
But again, it doesn't ruin my perception of the film.
No, absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
No.
And I should say, this film did really well for people. It beat the box office world record opening weekend, grossing $40 million. So it broke the record. The record wasn't standing for very long though, because it was only set a week prior. And that was from Ghostbusters 2 being in the theater.
And we're going to see Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
On the Roxy on the 5th, October 5th.
So Ghostbusters grossed...
Coliseumpresents.ca.
Ghostbusters grossed whatever, and then had broken the record. Ghostbusters 2, sorry.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, next weekend, Batman comes out. Boom. Breaks it again. It was the first film in history to make $100 million in 10 days. First film in history.
That's impressive.
Now, again, that happens more often nowadays when we look at like big
Well, also-
Disney movies or Marvel
And
movies.
also
stuff like that.
inflation. I don't know if that's corrected for inflation or
That's
not.
not corrected for inflation.
Right. So I mean,
But-
with inflation, that would be.
It's
you know,
impressive.
yeah.
It's very much impressive. Like if you adjust Jack Nicholson's wage, he made over $120 million from this film.
Yeah, that's insane.
Insane.
That is insane.
But whatever. I think that's cool. First film in history to make
that is
$100
really
million in 10 days.
Yeah.
That's average of $10 million a day for math people. And
Can you imagine $10 million a day?
$10 million a day? Yeah, that's probably what my wage is going to be here in never.
Yeah.
You actually, funny enough, I bet some people are paid $10 million a day.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
somewhere in the world.
Bill Gates probably makes $10 million.
Oh,
a
he
day.
makes like that a minute, basically.
Does he?
I don't know. The amount
That's
that Bill
impossible.
Gates makes per minute is like,
More than I make in a year,
yeah,
probably.
literally.
I don't make very much a year though.
What are we looking at?
What's okay? I'll look.
Bill
this up.
Gates per minute rate, per minute earnings.
He's not your highest earner.
Well, okay, what does Microsoft earn per minute then? I don't know. Let's see.
He makes $7.6 million a day, or $319,000 an hour, $5,000 a minute, or $88.79 a second.
Can you imagine being like, yeah, my hourly rate is $319,000.
He is the fifth richest person in the world with a current net worth of $116 billion.
Can I have
How much does Elon Musk make in a day then?
well, he spent most of his money on Twitter.
Yeah.
Can I have a raise to $319,000 an hour?
This is a crazy. I don't know. Okay, based on statistics, Elon Musk makes around $1.6 million an hour.
So like
That's 220,000 times the federal minimum wage. 220.
but that's probably the American minimum wage, which is like a quarter of the Canadian minimum wage.
Well, yeah, I think probably the federal wage for states is probably $11. I'd say
Yeah, it's
probably
somewhere
10 or
around there. And
$11.
then we're what are we? 18, just under 18 up here.
it's not that like $10. I would
It's not
assume
even. It's like
$10.
$8.
This is why we're doing base. Okay, U.S. federal minimum. Well,
I think it's like $8.
this is the ground research people are. $7 an hour. What?
Yeah, it's yeah.
But that's federal minimum. What's the just general? What's the general?
Federal. That's what it is.
No, but okay. So for us, right? There's a minimum wage, and then there's a federal minimum.
There's provincial minimum.
provincial. But do they not have provincial?
I don't.
Or like
well, state. I don't think
state
so. I
minimum
don't know.
wage?
We're way off topic. This is a movie review show, not a politics show.
Whatever.
So
Because I thought like $7 or $8 was like the regular wage. Because our minimum wage here is like $15, right? But our federal minimum is like 17,
just under 18. Yeah.
1760 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And so I figured that would be similar in the States, and that was like $7 and $9 or whatever. But I guess not. They just have one
Yeah, I think
general
so.
wage.
But anyway,
That's
let's,
hella low for these
it
days.
is.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
It is.
We'll get away from that. I don't
Let's finish
have
this off. Let's finish
I
this
don't
off.
have too much.
I don't really have a lot more
Like
to say.
I said, I was scared of the Joker when I was a kid. I found it more goofy now. And again, like we said, just different ways to play the character, right?
Yeah.
There's different ways to look at the part, different ways
Yeah.
to take it.
Rating. Let's finish it up.
You're done already. That's it.
I don't have anything more to say.
You don't have any more. You don't
No.
want to talk about other things?
No,
Okay. I guess we can end it then.
I don't think we have anything more to say.
Okay. Give me a rating out of 10 then.
7.
I wrote it in my book. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Well, then we're on the same page.
Okay. Okay. I guess you just watched the viewing room. Sorry, I'm just kind of shocked. I thought we had another 10 minutes left in us. But
I
guess
don't have anything more to
I
say.
think- I
There's
think this is what
nothing more
happens.
left for me to say.
This is what happens when we don't have Mountain Dew in the fridge. Gary, Adam just kind of falls apart.
I honestly wasn't. I don't know.
He's shaking. He's I'm just saying. Anyways, yeah, I think it was decent.
Yeah,
It wasn't as good as I remembered it. And
Nothing is ever as good as you remember
I think it holds up. I think it still holds up because there's always going to be different ways to look at a movie and portray a character. And I do think this is one of those first movies, especially when we talk about initial superhero movies, like not including Howard the Duck or stuff like that. But we're looking at something that really brought bigger studios and the eye of the public into, okay, this is a way of making like fantasy work where people are starting to get interested in the superhero genre. It works for kids because they're like have something to look up to and stuff, and we can make toys off of this. And it's something that works for adults because they're like, okay, cool, we can have something a little bit darker and something like maybe they still think about, right?
Yeah.
And so it works. It's a way to bring a lot of people in and make a lot of money. And so this is one of those movies that definitely started a trend going forward of, okay, how can we make this as big as possible?
Yep.
Proof is in the pudding. Made $400 million.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching. We have a Patreon. Say the link. Do you have the link?
I still have not looked it up.
We should. It's dufferinave.com. Go on the Patreon. You can see it on the website and subscribe to our Patreon, the viewing room. And yeah.
Put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments. Yeah. Yeah, we will do that. We'll pin it. We'll pin it in the comments. Extra work for Adam, but whatever. He doesn't mind. For money, nah. Anyways, if you have suggestions on what you want us to see next or review next, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you thought on this episode. We're always looking for suggestions, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Oh my God.